Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in this very gorgeous Tuesday afternoon here in downtown Providence and around the state. We're going to get a little outside the state here as we welcome Kellan Ingalls with the number 9 wind farm. Kellan, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to Skype in and give us an outside perspective about a new opportunity for wind energy here in Rhode Island, but produced in Maine. Now, here in Rhode Island, we know very well of the deep water wind development, but this is a new opportunity of a wind farm in Maine to provide potentially power here in Rhode Island. So tell us a little bit about the number 9 wind farm.
Right, so the number 9 wind farm is up in Aroostook County, Maine, which is about as far as you can go without hitting Canada. It's 250 megawatts, and it's in timber country. So there are lots of existing roads and cleared spaces that we can take advantage of without causing a whole lot of wildlife and wetland impacts. And it's being proposed by EDP Renewables. We're about the 4th largest operator of wind farms in the country.
So talk with us a little bit about that choice of land and also looking at Rhode Island as the potential end user.
Sure, so it's kind of a no-brainer up there as far as the land is concerned. It's a great wind resource. It's a compatible use. They timber harvest pretty actively throughout the year. There's hunting, snowmobiling, and all those uses will be preserved and made even better. And then selling power into Rhode Island, another no-brainer. The governor has some pretty ambitious energy goals, and we're anxious to meet them with clean power.
So let's talk a little bit about that amount. Now, again, you mentioned 250, is it megawatts? That could potentially power over 100,000 Rhode Island homes.
That's right. 109,000 is the calculation I've got. And that's based on the average use for each household in Rhode Island. So it's a lot of energy.
So let's talk a little bit about the process. Now, again, here in Rhode Island, as we said, we know about wind opportunities that we've seen be developed here. Now, this is kind of a new construct looking at outside the state. But as you mentioned, there are opportunities as presented by the state government here under this current administration. So what does that process look like to number 9 wind farm as it's eyeing the state as an end user?
Well, we've already submitted a bid into the state, and they're evaluating the proposals right now. So our fingers will remain crossed for the time being. Any proposal within the ISO New England grid, anybody who can connect to the grid that we all pull power from that has renewable energy is eligible to participate.
And so let's talk a little bit about the cost structure. There are oftentimes folks who might raise eyebrows and say, well, aren't renewables expensive? What do you have to say to those folks as this is part of a larger package to diversify the energy options that are needed here in the state?
Yeah, I would say renewables are absolutely not expensive. Onshore wind energy in particular is one of the least expensive forms of clean energy generation. It serves to hedge against fluctuating prices, and so there's no fuel. So when you sign a contract for a long-term power purchase from a wind farm like this, it doesn't rise and fall like the cost of oil, gas, traditional energy sources. You lock in a fixed price that stays low over time. So that's a huge benefit to Rhode Islanders in this case.
Do you think folks in general, as we're talking about renewables and opportunities that, again, are here in the state and the outside the state, how big of the education campaign is a component of what it is that you do to, again, explain how the process works and what number 9 wind farm could potentially provide?
The education campaign is the fun part. I love going around and talking to people about the wind farm, whether it's misconceptions or it's just an eagerness to learn about renewable energy. Wind technician and solar installer, those are 2 of the fastest growing jobs in the United States right now. And so in that way, education is a huge component too. We love to be a part of what's driving that growth.
Well, wanted to have you Skype in again to provide a little bit of a background between number 9 wind farm. What else would you like Rhode Islanders to know while we have you here in studio?
Well, we're excited to bring this opportunity to fruition, we're working with the New England Institute of Technology to train workers right there in Rhode Island to be the new generation of wind turbine technicians and solar installers. So that's another direct benefit along with the low price that goes along with this project.
Well, as I said, wanted to have you in as you're going through the process right now, again, of identifying this opportunity here in Rhode Island. But as you said, it is a competitive bid process as Rhode Island is looking, again, to diversify its energy options. Lastly, while I have you in here, it might be a little outside the box, but, are there, would you say, states or, places to look at that are really sort of leading the country as far as looking at wind energy is concerned?
Well, Rhode Island certainly is with this procurement. It's a pretty admirable thing that the governor has these ambitions to get clean energy for the state. Most of the New England states are pushing really hard for renewable energy. New York as well. So we're in a good country, portion of the country up here. Lots of good things are going to be happening in the near future.
And again, before we let you go, just tell us again, what is the size of that footprint up in Maine, as you said, almost touching Canada?
The size of the footprint, well, it's about from 60 to 100 turbines, depending on what model we go with eventually. But the footprint is pretty small because we're using existing roads and cleared spaces. So it's pretty minimal impact for a lot of power.
And finally, there's a lot of photos that are available on the number 9 wind farm. Let's talk specifically onshore wind because, let's go back even a number of years with offshore. Well, looking at, say, Cape Wind, for an example. Is it a cultural shift, would you say, especially up in Maine, as you said, it's an existing timber land, might not be seen by so many folks, but in maybe perhaps more denser areas. Is that something that perhaps we'll see or as part of the conversation moving forward? Again, the incorporation literally of wind power into the landscape.
Yeah, it's always a part of the conversation. Every project, when it goes through permitting, is evaluated for its impact on scenery, the spaces around it. And number 9 is pretty unique in that the studies we've done so far, we have zero impact to scenic resources in the area. So we're pretty unique in that regard. It's a pretty special site, and that's always a part of the mix.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time, again, to explain to Rhode Islanders here a little bit more about number 9 Wind Farm. We'll provide links to it as well. And, of course, as you go through the process, we'll continue to follow this story moving forward. Perhaps we'll be talking with number 9 Wind Farm soon. So, Kellan Ingalls, thank you so much for taking the time to Skype in today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Okay, we'll let you go. And don't go anywhere. We're going to get back a little more local here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center in just one moment.